Hello, everyone. Today, we are going to discuss very relevant topics, amongst others, how to communicate effectively, what to consider when negotiating, and how each of us can contribute to a more inclusive world. Let me tell you a bit about Ellen Deuter. I first met Ellen a couple of years ago while I was giving a lecture at MIPLC. And for those who still don't know what is MIPLC, this is an excellent LL.M program of IP, intellectual property, and competition law under the umbrella of Max Planck Institute, the University of Augsburg, the Technical University in Munich, and the George Washington University. And when I met her, already Ellen had over 10 years professional experience. And prior to coming to Europe for this LL.M program, she was a senior legal counsel at a law firm, Dexco, in Brazil. Currently, Ellen works as a Senior IPR Policy Researcher at Ericsson, and she is also manager of diversity and inclusion at Women in Antitrust. And I invited her today because of her strong communication and leadership skills, her strategic thinking, and her unique way to navigate through difficult situations, multicultural environments, inspiring those around her, including myself. And I hope you enjoy the time with her as much as I do. And without further delay, I'm gonna invite her to join this interview discussion. Thank you. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Claudia.
It's a real pleasure to have you here.
I am really happy to be here as well.
Great. For those in the audience who still do not know you, could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, as Claudia said, I am a lawyer. I am from Brazil. I was raised in a small town called Santa Isabel in the countryside of São Paulo. I come from a big family and I see myself as a very curious person. I would say that's me.
That's great. You know, I always say that you are the diplomat of the team. Where did you acquire your communication skills?
Thank you for that. I am super happy to be called a diplomat because this is what I wanted to be before being a lawyer. And to answer that question, I have to go back to this memory that I have really vivid in my mind from when I learned to read. I remember that my stepfather would drive my mother to her work, and I would go together. And in our way to her job, I would read all the store signs. I would connect the letters to form a word. And I remember that I was thrilled, so excited that I was now able to communicate in a new way. It was a gift. And really fast, I started to write poetry because those who know me I think they will laugh now because I have a lot of emotions and I feel like I have to express those emotions. So writing, talking, they are ways to express myself. So because of that, as a child, I took drama classes, dancing classes, and I see today how this helped to shape my confidence. Also, when I was 14 years old, I started teaching English to younger children. They were 10 and I was 14. And let me tell you this, getting children's attention is quite challenging. So my compliments to all teachers out there, because this is difficult. And I think that it was a good training. So I believe that my communication skills come a lot from those experiences that I had early in my life.
I see. But what should we consider when communicating with someone else? Any tips for the audience?
Yes, I can think of three main points. The first one is something that you tell us quite often, which is to breathe. So this is very, very important. I remember that when I started drama classes, like I had several classes just focusing on the breathing. And I can say that for me, it is hard to remember to breathe when I am nervous. So I help myself. For example, now I have a post-it here to remember to breathe. Sometimes I can write on my hand. So I try to remind myself, because although it may sound very natural saying breathe, when I am nervous, I totally forget about it. The second tip would be prepare whenever it is possible. So, for example, I prepared for this conversation here, and I do that quite often in my life. I do that also for my personal relationships. When I have challenging conversations, I try to prepare myself so that when the emotions get in the way, I can still communicate what I want. I understand that in some situations, um, someone may not have time to prepare, but whenever possible, I try to do so. And the third tip, which I tell myself quite often, is do not take yourself too seriously. Um, when I when I do something, I have a tendency to overthink. Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. This was not so good. And I am learning day by day to be my best friend and to understand that, okay, if something was not that good, I can learn and do it better next time. So this is something that I think I'm telling more to myself now, but I do think that we will all benefit. So those are three tips: breathe, prepare, and take it easy.
Take it easy. Good advice. I have seen you because you were talking about the emotions and how to deal with difficult situations or conversations, and I have seen you mastering tension situations. For example, in mock negotiations, I understand that part of it you learned it from this negotiation training that you received from Harvard University, and of course all the years of experience as legal counsel negotiating agreements. And one of the techniques I saw you applying, correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw you kind of remaining calm, recognizing a bit of the other person's argument, and then you add something else to move the discussion somehow in the direction that you consider appropriate. What else could you recommend us to do when negotiating?
Again, I believe that preparation is key, and it helps me a lot. Before going into a negotiation, I try to prepare my points, to do a brainstorming, and this gives me also more confidence. I believe that to be able to negotiate well, one should understand about the object of the negotiation. Learning negotiation techniques is also important. I can give later a few tips where you can find them, but there are ways to develop those techniques. I would say also that relationships are important, and I have an impression that people know when it's genuine. So building a relationship which is genuine, that is something that you do really because you value this. And the main thing, in my view, in a negotiation is to remember what do you want to achieve, and focus on the goal instead of focusing on being right or on your pride. Um, I, as a lawyer, um, and because of our training, I think it can be easy to forget the main goal and think so much about the pride, and I want to be right. So I think this is something that we should step back and think, okay, what is the intention here? What is my main goal? And something you mentioned about acknowledging the other person's view, I believe this is very important, because with active listening, we can actually learn and then you can understand the other person's view and move forward towards the direction that is more beneficial to both of you. So active listening is also pretty important in my view.
I know this part of always wanted to be right and winning every single argument.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think that because I have seen myself in this position a few times, that's why I am now more aware. And I have noticed that when I focus on the goal, it is way better. And in the end, it's about achieving that goal.
What about taking things personally? What is the role it plays in negotiation?
I may say on that one, living in Germany has helped me a lot to take things like more easily and not in a personal way. I believe that there are so many things surrounding a person. Maybe it's not a good day. Maybe this person is worried about something else, because I see myself in that position. And of course, when I am reading when I'm reading and understanding what this person is saying, because I am seeing this from my point of view, I may sometimes find, oh, this is about me, this is personal. And sometimes it may be, but it's still, what is the goal of the negotiation? What do you want to achieve? So even when it is personal, I think I should stick to the goal, and yes, try to reach the objective of the negotiation.
Very good. Keep the goal in mind. We will do
Yes.
that. How can we apply negotiation in other aspects in life, which are not work?
This is a very good question. So I see that, in my view, we are negotiating every day, and sometimes quite often during the day. We are negotiating with our partners, parents, children, friends. For example, when you are deciding where to go for lunch, or where to go for dinner, or which movie to watch on Netflix, or where do you go for the next trip, you are negotiating. You show your points. I believe we should go to this place because there is this and that. And the other person maybe, well, but I think this place is too crowded, maybe it's a bit expensive. So in this way, you can see that we are negotiating all the time and applying the things I said earlier, thinking about the goal, acknowledging the other person's view, active listening. All of this can help you in these everyday negotiations as well.
Which hints would you give to those who would like to improve their negotiation skills?
Well, there is good and reliable information online when you know how to look for them. I can give two suggestions. On YouTube, there's a video from Dan Shapiro. I had a class with him at Harvard. It was a very good one, so I can recommend that. There's also another video on YouTube from TED. It's called 3 Steps to Getting What You Want in Negotiation. It's a short video with very good content. And I couldn't emphasize enough the importance of preparation and practice. I believe negotiating is a learning curve, and the more you do it, reflect, see what you can improve, the better you will get. So prepare and practice.
Sometimes it helps also to be next to seniors who have a lot of experience, and I think sometimes you can also learn from the other side which techniques they have used that have worked, right? To be inspired also from in their own practice.
Absolutely. And I have been fortunate to be with leaders that I admire a lot, and I observe and I learn so much from them. So I totally agree with you.
Great. So how do you manage that your message come across?
That's a good one. I try to put myself on the other person's shoes. And here I have to say that it is easier for me when I have things in common with this person. The challenge is doing the same with a person that is completely different from me because I have to learn about their perspective. I have to understand where they are coming from. And to do that, I have to listen to them. I have to understand where they stand. And in this way, I can later explain my point in a way that this person can relate to it. So, again, active listening. And I also think that understanding who your audience is important. So, what are their desires? What do they want to achieve? And sometimes I need help with that. And that is when I learn the most.
Hmm. I'm thinking now for the audience, trying to combine everything that they may have learned today. And of course, we will share also the links that you mentioned so that they can have the opportunity to watch those videos. But if you have to go into all the techniques that you were mentioning before, I heard active listening playing a big role.
Mhm.
What else?
Active listening, preparation, focusing on the goal. And when it comes to your audience, putting yourself on the other person's shoes, I can give an example. Um, if if your goal is, for instance, to educate on IP, right? Like let's think of the project IP with Claudia Tapia. Understanding your audience is important. So who are those who would like to learn about IP? What are the challenges that they are facing in learning about IP? How can I facilitate? How can I make it easier for them to learn when I understand that it may be the case they do not have much time? So this is something you can do to understand your audience and then to convey a message in a way that it will really reach them.
Mm-hmm. And in negotiations, I hear not taking things personally, focus on the goal. Anything else? I mean, one of the things I was thinking while you were speaking also, I think it's very useful to look at terminology, especially in private conversations, but I think it could go also in legal ones, to always ask, what does this word mean for you? Because we have seen also sometimes in workshops that we had parallel discussions because the definitions themselves were not the same ones. And for both parties, that was super clear what that word meant, but it didn't have the same meaning. And that's what they were having a discussion, although they both had the same understanding of what they wanted to achieve, and that was a common goal. So I thought it was quite interesting, this kind of misunderstanding.
Absolutely. I remember this occasion, and the goal was indeed the same, but the definition of this exact word was different. And I believe that, especially when you are, and I know we will further discuss that, but in a diverse environment, where, for instance, we are not native speakers, even more so, you may have the case where because of cultural differences as well, you give a different meaning to the same word. So whenever possible, when you realize maybe we are not talking about the same thing, asking, what do you mean by this? What does this word mean to you? This can help a lot. And maybe this is what is avoiding the goal of the negotiation to be reached, this miscommunication. So indeed, it's important to clarify things.
And since we are going into this topic, let's clarify what does diversity and inclusion mean for you?
Diversity is about all the characteristics that make a person unique, whether it is their nationality, gender, age, race, ethnicity, and so on. Sometimes there is a confusion because people may think that diversity is only about minorities. Minorities meaning groups that are underrepresented in leadership positions. But it's not the case. Diversity embraces everyone. It's about characteristics that all of us human beings have and that make us who we are. So this is diversity, or diversity, depending on if you're speaking in UK, British or American English. So sometimes I think I will say diversity here. So just to make sure everyone understands us. And inclusion. Inclusion in this context here is to include an individual in a group, meaning that imagine that you have a diverse team. So you have people from different countries, they have different ages, you have different genders there, but then they should feel part of this group. They should feel integrated, respected, comfortable to be who they are. So this is the inclusion, and this is a challenging. I think this is a challenge, but once you achieve this inclusion, great things come with it.
I was thinking while you were talking about a former researcher of us, Tarsila Matos, and she was telling me that the first day she started in her new position, every colleague she met on the corridor came to her, introduced, and said, "You're welcome. We are so happy that you're here." And so from the very first day, she felt she was part of the team. So I think this is really a good example how inclusion can work.
Absolutely.
Do you mention examples or difficulties that you have observed regarding diversity and inclusion?
Yes. So when I said that it can be challenging, I mean that in my view, when you are dealing with people that are very similar to you, it can be a bit easier because you understand where they're coming from. You might understand their points of view. What is new usually requires more energy. It requires more awareness and self-reflection. For example, things that you have always considered to be okay may not be okay. And realizing this sometimes can be really hard because you may feel bad. Wow, I didn't know that this was not good. In my view, this was okay. And now I see that this is not nice. So it can be hard. So I believe that it is everyone's job to work on diversity and inclusion. It's not someone else's problem or issue. This is our task, whether it is at work or in our personal relations. And what can help with that, in my view, is again, and I think that this is what I have repeated myself several times, with active listening. But because this is so important, especially when you are meeting someone new, when you're trying to understand a new perspective. So truly listening, trying not to instantly judge and state your position, but truly listening. And this again includes the checking that we mentioned before. So if I understand correctly, is this so, or maybe is this offensive? What do you understand by this certain word? So this checking can be helpful as well, in my view.
And I think there's also a part of education. I recall when we last had created that list of words that we decided we did not want to continue using because we have either read or heard from some people that they interpret it as exclusion or exclusive, and that we created a kind of game where we will have this purple flag, and if someone will use one of the games, the words, and also we had this kind of possibility to forgive ourselves when we use one of them and then we correct it, and I think it went better, and I still hear myself from time to time using some expressions and changing them. So for example, I years I've been always saying hey guys, and when I heard that some woman felt really excluded, and I was thinking really about the word itself, was about then to change it into hey folks, but sometimes it's hard if you have spent so much time using the same terminologies, so going step by step and educating each other and having active listening, I think it's super important.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think the exercise we did was so important. We learned so much with that, and this also shows the important role of actively studying and trying to learn about diversity and inclusion. So I couldn't agree more.
Oh, but we were talking kind of the challenges, but of course they are benefits of diversity and inclusion. Would you like to mention some?
Yes, this is the best part. So there are studies showing that diversity and inclusion, they are good for business. But I will not focus on that. But you can find this information. I will focus on more on the personal part. I believe that when you have diversity and inclusion, you have a space for new and creative ideas, new perspectives. When you talk about communication with a diverse team, you can reach a larger public, because if you have a diverse team, they will understand more people, they will understand more points of view. So, and I believe that the cooperation in a group which is diverse and inclusive is also great. The differences can be complementary, and with that you can thrive. So I believe that there are several benefits of diversity and inclusion, and these are some of them.
I fully agree. You were mentioning before that you don't consider diversity and exclusion something from someone else. Very often we hear that's HR competence, but rather or joint responsibility. But sometimes we're struggling in what can we do in our individual roles to foster this diversity and inclusion at work. And maybe you can give us some ideas.
I believe that when people think HR is responsible for diversity and inclusion, it comes from the idea that HR is recruiting, so it's their job. It's also their job, but it's everyone's job, in my view. And how can we do that? Well, one of the ways we can do that is trying to understand our bias. And I can explain a bit more. When we see a woman and the way she talks, we perceive her as aggressive. You may ask yourself to understand if you have a bias. Would I say the same if I saw a man talking like that? Or would I see a man talking like that being assertive and confident? So this is a good way to identify if there's a bias there. And this is an exercise that all of us can do. And I believe that questioning ourselves is a way to support diversity and inclusion. So as you gave the example of Tarsila, as a colleague, how can I make my new colleague to feel included and integrated? How can I be welcoming to this person? What can I learn about this person's culture? For instance, maybe in this person's culture, they don't eat meat, or they don't eat red meat, or they pray during the day. How can I respect? How can I provide an environment where this person feels respected and safe? And then how can I use my skills, which all of us have skills, to support diversity and inclusion? So I can give you as an example. As a manager, I see you empowering, giving the space for people to thrive, building diverse teams, and this is what people in their position they can do to support this cause.
Thank you, Ellen. And I think diverse teams are really something special and can lead great things. So it's a lot of fun too.
Yes.
Can you tell us about, because you've been doing social projects since you were, I think, 14, I heard, when you were giving lectures or teaching to 10 years old kids. But since then, you've been involved in other social projects. So can you tell us about the social projects you've been involved on?
Sure. When I was 14 years old, what I could offer by then, I noticed that I was an exception because I had the opportunity to go to a private language school. So I was learning English since I was 10 years old. So I noticed I was this exception, and I thought, okay, this is something I can offer. My English wasn't, and I think probably I'm always improving, so it will never be perfect. I think not even a native speaker has a perfect English, but I knew that I could offer what I had learned by then. So that was what I could do when I was 14 years old. And then I grew up and I started to have more and more experience. And again, I tried to offer what I have learned. So, for example, today I support students who wish to study abroad. Being someone myself who had the opportunity to do a few exchange programs and also my master's degree here in Germany, I believe that I can help them with my experience, reviewing their motivation letters, giving some tips for the interviews. This is what I can offer today. I also work as manager of diversity and inclusion at Women and Antitrust, where I have learned so much about this subject. I am also part of other associations, fostering and promoting young professionals. So this is what I can offer today, and this really gives me so much energy as well. So I think that all of us can think, okay, how can I contribute? Whether it is in your paid job or on a voluntary basis, I encourage everyone to think, how can I contribute? Can I do something within my organization? Can I do something outside with my free time, like 1 hour a week, 2 hours, 30 minutes? This can make a difference. And I believe it's important to remember that when you do that, it's not just because you are like doing something for society in this broad sense, but because this is, in my view, our responsibility if we want to have a society with more equity, diversity, and inclusion. So I take this as a responsibility for myself.
So be part of the solution.
Absolutely, absolutely. We all will benefit from that.
I like that. Great, Ellen. We're arriving to the end of the interview, and I have my final question, which I like to raise to all the people I interview, which is, could you tell us a lesson learned during your career?
I was wondering because I watched your last interviews, and with this question, I always ask myself when I listen to the answers, what is a lesson? And I could think of a few, but I am bringing the one that that I find really, really important, and perhaps this can help others, which is try again.
Ah.
And I say that because I have achieved great things in my academic and professional life. What many people don't know is that I have failed so many times in my attempts when I was applying for a scholarship or for a position. And for me, it is, and it was really hard and disappointing when I invest my time, my energy in this project that I want so much to succeed, and then it does not happen. But then I try again. I could give several examples of times that I tried again, and I think this is what has taken me this far. So I think this is the lesson that I have learned, and that I am still learning, I guess, because I'm still trying things, and I'm sure that some of them will not work and others will work, and that's life.
Interesting. Did you always had it, or was the moment of time what you say, I'm trying again? Because you're extremely resilient. This is one of your strengths, and I think that's what brought you here. But what was your inspiration? Was because of an experience you saw had, because you saw it in someone else, and then decided to adapt it? What's the story behind?
Mhm. I believe that my mother, she always encourages me. Every time I tell her, Mom, I am going to try this, she's like, you're going to get it. It's going to work. And then if I don't get it, it's okay, next time. So she's always like encouraging me. And I remember when I applied for this exchange program, which like transformed my life, called Youth Ambassadors. I was 14 years old and I applied for the first time. And the selection was super hard. I was competing with teenagers that were 18 years old, so it was super intense. I took the exam, I had the interview, they visited my place, so I was in the final phase. And my friends were excited with me. I remember my family rooting for me so much because this was about going to the US and representing Brazil. It would be my first time at an airplane traveling abroad. And when the result came, I did not get it. I failed because I think maybe this is not the proper word, but I did not get it. And I do remember I was crying the whole day. I was so sad. So you can imagine, I was 14 years old. I was so, so, so sad. And I think it's important to give yourself this time to digest, to live that feeling, because it's a valid feeling. But I believe, and this is what I do for myself, I try not to hold this feeling for so long. So I leave what I have to leave and then I move forward. So the next year I was trying again. And I went through all the phases once again with that fear, because I knew now how hard it would be if I didn't get it. And in the end, I got it.
Yes.
Yes. And this transformed my life. And I feel like I was so ready, because I didn't get it the first time. I had the possibility to do another course in Sao Paulo that they gave to the finalists, in which I got to know amazing people. So I saw that in my view, I got two prizes. The year that I didn't get the main one, and the next year that I got like the main prize. So yeah, I could tell you other stories, but I think this is the one that really gave me this lesson for the first time, because this was by then the biggest thing I was applying for, the biggest thing I was trying.
Yes, quite impressive at that young age. Trying to think what I was doing at that age, definitely not applying to this kind of. So very inspiring story. Thank you so much, Ellen, and thanks for your time and sharing your experiences. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people out there. And well, see you soon, I guess. And thanks a lot to the audience also for joining us today. And as I said, I will put the links so that you have the opportunity to watch the other videos and read about these techniques. Thank
Thank
you
you,
very much.
Claudia. Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you, everyone. And see you.
Bye.
Bye.